Hey everyone. Well, over the last couple weeks, we've been going through a number of different series. And in today's episode, what we're going to do is spend just a little bit of time of continuing our discussion around the operating system. Now, last week, we spent some time about the need to have a singular place, kind of a team headquarters, so to speak. And for many of us, really, one of the most important places is going to be the digital repository, like the one place we can point to and say, this is where all of our assets in the business lives. Now, many people also love to be able to print that out and have it in a three-ring binder. I certainly love to be able to have analog tools. I think there's something about being able to get away from the computer and all the distractions and the apps and the dings and the pings, and also just something having it in your hands, I think is valuable. So I think you can absolutely be able to have both, but you want to be able to say this is where our operating system is, and quite frankly, even the three-ring binder is going to be a replication of what you have in your shared drive. In today's episode, what we're going to spend time talking about is kind of part two of that, and that is really the architecture or the core playbooks that sit inside this team headquarters. Now, if I take you back for just a second, when I started to lean in a little bit into this idea of systems and processes, basically, you read the E-Myth and that's what you need to have. You hear people talking about it. And so then you start to try to think, okay, well, where do I put all of these different things that I have? I have some assets on my desktop. I have things scattered around in random file folders in my shared drive. And then you start to wonder, you do some Google research, what is a system and what is a process and what is a playbook? And as I started to try to begin to figure out where do things put in, took some time to be able to do that. Even if you read a book like EOS, or excuse me, even if you read a book like Traction, where it talks about EOS, you're not going to find like, hey, here is the folder structure that you want to be able to have. And so ultimately, that's what I ended up kind of creating. That's kind of somewhat what I want to be able to share with you today. So first, I think there's got to be some level of organizing function. Okay. Now we're going to talk in just a couple weeks about what I believe is really the operating system, so to speak, for the business owner, for the entrepreneur, him or herself. And that all sits under what I call leading yourself first. I think that makes sense. We're talking about you. But what we're talking about today is really about what is the structure of the operating system for the business. First and foremost, I think it sits inside or underneath the umbrella of these four principles, and that is clarity, alignment, team, and execution. Clarity, alignment, team, and execution. Those are the big four major headings, so to speak. And if you were literally in your Google Drive, your Dropbox, your Microsoft Share Drive, that would be inside of your operating system. That would be the next four folders that you would set up: clarity, alignment, team, and execution. Now, the good news is that we've been able to find every file that you would have for the business, every Word document, every Excel, every PDF, everything is able to fit inside, at least for businesses doing 300,000 to 3 million. And has it worked for businesses doing, more than that? Sure. I personally have not interacted and worked with companies doing north of 10 million in any capacity. So I can't speak to that. But I specifically think that this operating system, because of the granularity that we try to give in the tangible things that we try to give the small business owners, is that it works. I think that if you take and look at a system like an EOS, I think for especially companies 10 million and above, it works great. And if you've read Traction before, EOS is a great system. I'm very familiar with it. I actually personally used to be an EOS implementer. Many people don't know that. So I did that for about a year. This was, goodness, 7, 8 years ago, something like that. So I'm pretty familiar with all of the inner workings of EOS. The challenge for small businesses specifically is if you read that, you begin to try to take some of the things and apply it, and then it ends up getting watered down because a business doing 1 million, even $2 million, does not have a true leadership team. I mean, you may have yourself, your EA, and an office manager, but you don't have a full leadership team. So trying to apply some of the EOS principles, it ends up kind of watering it down. That's hence why I believe EOS for companies 10 million to 100 million is fantastic. By the way, little sidebar, EOS actually is a distillation from the book Scaling Up. So if you've ever read the book Scaling Up from Vern Harnish, he actually, Gino Wickman, who created EOS, actually used to work with Vern Harnish. And to carry that thread on, Vern Harnish actually has a background with Jim Collins. So there you go. At the end of the day, success leaves clues and you begin to kind of work downhill. So ultimately, our operating system, the kind of structure we have, I think is perfectly suited for those businesses, many of you that are listening to this, that do 300,000 to 3 million. Okay. So back to our structure. So we have the operating system, our main folder, and then we're going to go in there and we're going to have 4 principles: clarity, alignment, team, and execution. Now, under each one of those folders, we have each one of them have 3 playbooks. Each one of them have 3 playbooks. So that way you can begin to kind of get a structure here to know that there's not an unlimited amount of playbooks. And matter of fact, we don't encourage you to actually start calling every asset a playbook. There was a period of time that people started they like that language. Like, we're going to go create a playbook, and then every document they create is now a playbook, as an example. And I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I think that there is just 12 of them. And so if you think about that for a business owner, I think it gives a lot of clarity and simplicity. Sure, do you need to kind of start to learn what those 12 playbooks are? Yes, but those 12 playbooks are organized under 4 main principles. So if I just stopped right there for a second, that hopefully starts to give you some level of structure into the business. Let me give you an example. If you were building a house, the way that they go about doing that, they're going to lay the block, and then they're going to put in some of the base plumbing. Let's say that you were going to build on a slab, and then they're going to put the fill in, and then they're going to put the concrete. And so now you've got your foundation. That's done. And so you think about that. That is basically like saying, okay, I'm going to have, my operating system is going to be set by these 4 main principles. That really is the foundation for everything. And then what do? Then they begin to go in and they start to, do the framing. They actually it starts to begin to look like a house. And that when that's done, I think that that's a very similar idea to those are the playbooks that the business is running on. And how many is the business running on? It's running on 12. And so that's often why I will say there's just a handful of playbooks. Now, in a second, I'm going to rattle off what those playbooks are. And if you want to, you may need to stop the podcast if you want. Stop the podcast and go in. I'm going to put this in our weekly email that goes out. And by the way, if you would like to get my emails, you can go to blueprintos.com/assets and you can register for my Above the Business weekly newsletter that we sent out. And so we're going to lay that structure out inside of that email. And also, if you get one of our emails and you'd like for us to be able to actually send you our OS architecture structure that I'm about to go over, you can email us and we'll send it over to you. Happy to do that. Okay. So we got the house framed. That's going to set our major playbooks. And so every system and process we have is going to go inside one of these 12 playbooks. We have 4 principles: clarity, alignment, team, and execution. That's it. Everything in the business is going to sit inside those four folders. And then in those four folders, we're going to have three playbooks for each. There's 12 playbooks that the business is running on. So let me go over them really briefly and quickly. I said briefly. Take that out, team. Let me go over each one of these quickly, but try to give you enough detail. So first, under clarity, there are the three playbooks under clarity. Number one, it is your blueprint playbook. Number two, it is your game plan playbook. And number three, it is your culture playbook. Now, we've talked about a blueprint for a long time. That is exactly where you have laid out. This is my 3-year vision, my 1-year objectives, my 90-day priorities. That is where all of those goals that you have put, that's where they go. Number two, what is our plan? Your actual plans, the strategies that you're going to employ, they go under the game plan playbook. And then number three, your culture playbook. Now, we have obviously a tremendous amount of tools that go under each one of these, but that's where your core values lives. That's where some of your maxims, things that you say and believe, live. And that's also where some tools we have, such as called performance culture, live. So everything related to your culture is inside that. So the clarity is made up of the blueprint, the game plan, and the culture playbooks. All right, let's shift down into alignment. Alignment is incredibly important. You'll spend a ton of time here. It is these three playbooks. It is number one, your communication rhythms. Number two, it is your keeping score playbook. And then number three is your operations playbook, which is a huge and very important playbook. Number one, your communication rhythms. That's where your one-to-ones are going to go. That's where your weekly team meetings are going to go. That's where your daily huddles are going to go. That's where your quarterly performance reviews are going to go. That's all of your meetings and reviews, annual performance plan reviews, all of those things, those all go inside that one. Keeping score, that's where your scoreboards and your dashboards and your individual team member scorecards are going to go, all inside keeping score. And then your operations, oh boy, is this a big one. This is all where all your back office, your time off, your vacation policies, maybe your handbook, so to speak. All of that goes inside the operations, as well as how do you service your customers? So all the service activities that go in once you have a customer or client, that all goes inside the operations playbook as well. All right, let's move on to team. Boy, is this one important. Under the principle of team, we have the attract, develop, and retain A players. I think that one's easy to say. How do we got to attract them? So all of our recruiting system stuff. We got to develop them. So that's where all of your training material goes. And then we got to retain them. What are the things we do to actually be able to retain our best people? A lot of times that's where your compensation plans would go, as an example. All right, last principle, and that is execution. And that is your marketing, your sales, and your cash playbook. Your marketing, your sales, and your cash playbook. How do we get leads in the business? What's our branding? What do we say? What's our messaging points? What's our lead gen strategies? How do we nurture leads? Sales. How do we convert the leads to customers? The sales playbook is incredibly important. And then number three, cash. How do we manage the cash inside the business? That's all sits inside your cash playbook. So once again, if that was a little fast, I know I went over that pretty quickly, but I went over 12 playbooks. Those 12 playbooks are organized under 4 principles. So the business just needs to set inside a handful. Now, here's what I encourage you. Again, if you think about wherever your shared drive is now, go and take a look at it. Go and take a look at it and see how is it organized? How is it set up, so to speak? Just like a house, you're not going to start doing the electrical before you've actually laid the foundation. These are the things that set this in place. And so when we're working with a business owner for the first time, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to get them to set that folder structure with the principles. We're going to set the playbooks. And then what we're going to ask them to do is actually go to where all of their assets they have already now are. We call those Rembrandts in the attic. They already have things. So before you go and start creating any new tools, why don't we take the tools we have now? Take the tools we have now and actually then be able to go and start putting those in the proper places. When people have done this, they have told us after a week or 2 weeks of doing, they said, I just feel a lot more organized. It's the feeling you have when you organize, your closet for the first time, or organize your garage for the first time. It's like, okay, I actually now have a way of this is where I'm going to put the bikes, and this is where we're going to put these things. The same thing is true for your business assets as well. All right, everyone. Next week, what we're going to do is now that we understand we need to have one place, the team headquarters, which we talked about last week. Number two, now we have the organizing structure of where things are going to go. Next week, we're going to talk about is, okay, now how do I start actually, if I'm creating some assets in the business, how do I actually begin to hand that off to people? So that if I get it out of my head, how do I do that well so that when I do it and hand it to somebody, they're actually able to pick it up and run with it? And that's what we're going to start talking about next week. All right, everyone. Hope this served you well. Till next time, lead well and go be great.